Hey, hey. So, just watched Materialists, the new A24 film by Celine Song, starring Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, Pedro Pascal. And I think the first thing here is that this is not a romantic comedy at all, not a rom com. The trailers made it seem kind of like this fun rom com thing, but it's like definitely a romantic drama. It's very much an A24 film, indie, dramatic, about like the nature of dating, the nature of online dating, the nature of modern dating, the nature of what it means to love someone, and what makes people a good match. And I think this movie had a good start and was pretty entertaining, but the finish was like puzzling and not very good. And I just feel like it didn't land or resonate in that big swelling way that most rom coms, romantic dramas do. Like from the start, there's a very clear philosophical conflict set up surrounding the idea of love. Lucy is this matchmaker and she lives in this world of checkboxes, desirables, and math equations. Love is a math equation, basically. It's a quantifiable marketplace. And then there's this competing idea that doesn't honestly get too much screen time or development, but it's the idea that love includes intangibles and chemistry and feeling. And honestly, it's fine that like this didn't get as much screen time or development because it's a general sentiment that like I think people agree with, and it's not a super hard thing to convince people of. Like, oh, like love requires some kind of chemistry or feeling or extra something that you can't really describe. But I think it's set up well, right? And like Lucy is this matchmaker that's selling this crazy service of matching people up based on their resumes and checklists and non-negotiable lists. And the world and the culture is very clearly set up. And then you have these two guys, Harry, played by Pedro Pascal, who's this perfect guy. He's rich, attractive, and charming. And then you have John, who's played by Chris Evans, who's this poor and low status guy, but he's Lucy's old flame. And I feel like you can generally tell where that's going. And the movie has a bunch of interesting conversations and insights into what these three characters want in a spouse, or what they think a spouse should be like, or who can be matched up as spouses. Like, Lucy hates that John is poor and hates that she hates him for that, but there's something within her that can't change her preference for a nicer upscale life. And then there's Harry, who wants Lucy because she's talented and skilled and intelligent, and like her power and success is attractive to him, and that's something he wants to be with. And then you have John, who's just like left behind, pining for Lucy, and he's always letting Lucy use him, and he's unable to move on. And so there's a lot of interesting stuff here. And basically every conversation in this movie, it's like a take on modern dating or a perspective on what love is. But with the ending of the movie, it's kind of exactly what you expect it to be. Like she realizes, oh, the rich guy can't give me what I want because, richness only goes so far. You need to have like a real connection. And the person she has a real connection with is the poor John guy, right? And she learns that there's more to a good couple than just checking off some boxes. And that was like basically told to us in the beginning of the movie. And like, that's the title of the movie, obviously, right? And I think that's fine. But for a movie that I think was exploring some interesting ideas, and that is an A24 movie, which you expect for like more depth there. Like I just expected there to be something more to like add some more commentary to what love is or what it can be. And I think just a general thing, like I feel like I kind of disagree with the concept of part of the movie. Like Lucy in the very beginning says, I think dating is hard and love is easy. And I think that both are. Like I don't like the idea of pretending that love is easy because it's clearly not. Like right now in real life, the divorce rate is crazy, and like love being easy is just not true. And we see that throughout the movie. And it's not just about like good chemistry or good connection or checking the right boxes, right? Like there's a bit of both, and like there's sacrifice and working things out and all that stuff. And the movie talks about like looking for your grave buddy, someone you'll grow old with. And I think Chris Evans' character clearly understands that. But it feels like Lucy's character, the main character who's supposed to learn and grow, like she doesn't ever really acknowledge that, which is puzzling to me because her choice at the end of the movie is to marry John, which is literally choosing the hardest road, and it's going to be tough and require sacrifices and for her to put her preferences aside sometimes. And I think there's a conversation at the end of the movie between John and Lucy at this random wedding that they crash. And it's like this culmination of the movie in my mind. And like John says that Lucy always uses him and he always lets her. And that she strings him along and he is still being strung along by her. And Lucy says like that's not fair because she says that John hates her because there's no way that he can love her because she's a judgmental, terrible person. And I feel like this is usually the point in the movie where like Chris Evans tells her that like, oh, like love and matching people up isn't just about like people's good parts and what they can offer, but like loving people through their difficulties and weaknesses and stuff like that. And like my favorite rom-com ever said it pretty well. Like you like because and you love despite. But this movie didn't hit on that, like, which felt so weird to me because that's like exactly the type of like kind of conclusion that the movie is going for in the text of what John and Lucy's actions are. Like in choosing each other, that is what they are doing. And so it felt like the takeaways of like, oh, love being materialist is just like not it, and you need to have something more. Like that felt like a very rudimentary like end to the movie and takeaway, and like it wasn't super deep, which like I was expecting for there to be more. So maybe that's just an expectations thing, but I just felt like it fell flat because of that. I also think generally like this is not a movie that I'm super relating to, because Lucy's thing of really desiring to have a rich upscale husband in life, like that's something that I just can't really relate to as much. And to some degree, like relating with the super, super rich, high class dating lifestyle in New York is like difficult, I think. And a lot of people will probably come at this being like, oh, like that's not me. And like this is very realistic in some ways. I'm sure it is. And there are people out there that probably need to learn this simple lesson, and not saying that I fully understand what love is or like know these lessons on love and dating. But I feel like this movie didn't challenge the characters or its audience enough with this idea of dating and love. But I still like enjoyed most of the movie. Like it's a good movie. Like I think the acting is all very good. Dakota Johnson, I think she's good. Like she has this like low key, chill vibe energy that I think works with this matchmaker. And a lot of the movie is her playing a part or trying to sell this service or sell herself as this kind of matchmaker who's super good. And I think she hits those beats very well. And then Chris Evans, he does this kind of character in his sleep. He's good. He's charming. Pedro Pascal, too, has like this presence and this intrigue that I think is really fun. Like, I think he was kind of interesting in a weird way of like he was fun to figure out and like, or try to figure things out with him through the movie, and like depth there and vulnerability that he shows and plays pretty well with like why he wants to pursue Lucy. But now spoilers. I feel like the storyline that they put in this movie about sexual assault, which is basically Lucy makes a match that turns into a sexual assault case. Like I think that is a much more compelling catalyst for Lucy to change her views on love than this whole like talking bit that she does with Pedro Pascal through different dates. And I think in the story, to be honest, it is already like the biggest turning point. Like the story with Sophie and the complexity of a client-friend relationship, with like the shock and the terrifying nature of a sexual assault, with like shattering Lucy's pride, and also like the success of a matchmaker. That's like a lot of interesting different things that you probably won't see many places. And there's, I think, a lot of stuff to explore there. And here it feels like Pedro Pascal's kind of storyline with the sexual assault storyline, they're competing, and like neither of them I think works super duper well. But I think to me that sexual assault thing and the morality and like the obligation, the responsibility that Lucy carries because of that, I think that's more compelling. And I think in that, Zoe Winters, the person who plays Sophie, this woman who gets sexually assaulted on this matchmaking date, she does super well, which like it is, I think, a role written for someone to like hit it out the park. But dude, she hits and she makes you feel it too. And Zoe Winters just did very well, I think. Other than that, I think it's still a very like competently well-made film with a lot of detail. Like there's a level of detail that A24 movies, or maybe indie movies in general, have that like mainstream big studio blockbusters don't. And I think there's a lot of detail in the script and in the direction from Celine Song. Like there's care and precision and intention behind framing, and like the things that are going on in the foreground and the background, you got to pay attention, right? And also like the costume design choices and the music cues and the sound design were like pretty good. Like I think there's a lot of things that are not obvious that we just zoom past, but like those details add so much to the character beats, and I think that was really beautiful. There's this one scene with a one costume choice that I think Lucy makes that I love, and I think it's amazing because it tells so much about her character without ever really focusing on it too much, but it makes so much sense to who she is. And I also think there's like 3 scenes of really great sound design. There's like the scene where Harry and Lucy first meet, and then probably the midpoint of the movie is also very good too. And there's a celebration scene at the matchmaking company's office. Like I was like, wow, this is great. I'm like locked in. And also like the score from Daniel Pemberton, very good, very good. Makes you really just feel like you're in it, and like it communicates a lot of the emotions that Dakota Johnson is going through very well. And also like there's just some beautiful one shots with the way that the camera moves and twists and turns around the environment, as well as just like Celine Song lets a lot of these scenes just play out and have their actors be in silence or just go off, bouncing off each other. And I think that's really good. And so it's a very competently well put together and made film. But I don't think it sticks the landing to justify the emotional resonance that it's trying to have.